Welcome to Athar's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Serpent SRX8 GTe long wheelbase bag 6. So let's get started. Be careful opening up bag 6A. There's two of them. They have some small set screws and small screws, so be careful not to lose anything. So I'm going to set the chassis aside for now, since we're going to be assembling the axle and steering hub. All right, so what I notice is that in one of the bags 2A, we have these bearings that are rubber sealed. So most likely these are going to be grease filled. So I'm going to go ahead and open the seals up, clean out the grease, and then lube it up with oil. And then I'll be back to continue on with the build. So I've got the seals off the bearings, and you can see that they're packed with grease. So I'm going to go ahead and take these outside, spray them with brake cleaner, come back, drop 2 drops of oil in each one, wipe the seals and put them back together, and then continue on with the build. Okay, so I wiped down the seals. I just put some brake cleaner on a shop towel and then wipe down the seals so that way there's no grease on them. And just put 2 drops in each one, and it rolls much smoother. It's a lot less friction. So hopefully your car will run smoother and a little bit faster. So highly recommend you don't skip this step. The other bearings in this step are metal shielded, so we can't open those up and treat them the same way. All right, so we're gonna need an axle. We're gonna need one of these pins that has a hole in it. We're gonna need the rubber boot, one of these pins. It's a 2.5 by 13. We're gonna need the out drive. We're gonna need this aluminum piece here. It's a little cover that goes over the boot. We're gonna need the 13 by 19 by 4 bearing. We're also going to need one of the steering hubs. And it looks like we have the right side, so we're going to make the right side one first. We're going to need the carbon fiber steering arm. We're going to need 2 M3 by 10 screws. We're also going to need a 8 by 16 by 5 bearing, a 8 by 11 by 0.1 shim. We're going to need our wheel hex, our pin for the wheel hex, which is M3 by 17, and an M5 by 4 set screw. All right, so now we have everything ready to assemble the axle, and we can go ahead and do that. So we're gonna need some grease. And we're just gonna put a little bit of grease over this ball end of the axle, and we're gonna go ahead and install the axle boot over the axle. So you want this end to be facing the ball, so we're going to install this end down. There we go. Now take some grease and apply it to this pin. And when you install this pin, you want to make sure that hole is facing up, just like so. I'm going to apply some grease on this 2.5 by 13 pin. And what we're going to do is we're going to line up the hole here with the hole in the other pin, and then slide this pin through both holes, just like so. And now everything is together. Now what we can do is we can install this boot in the groove right here. So just slowly work that boot into the groove, just like so. Then we're going to install this aluminum piece with the open end towards the boot. And we're actually going to put this just over the boot. And what I found is the best way to install this is kind of rotate it a bit and then push down on the boot as you go around, and it will kind of sit the way it's supposed to. I do really like the boot. I think it's a novel idea to have to kind of keep dirt and debris out of your moving parts that are greased, so they will attract dirt. Even though it's not an off-road car, it'll still help keep it clean. All right, next we can install our 13 by 19 by 4 bearing. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it into our steering hub, which is aluminum. This is a really nice piece, very nicely milled out and anodized. I absolutely love it. So go ahead and install that bearing and axle into the hub. Now we can go ahead and install the other bearing, which is a 8 by 16 by 5, onto this side. Now we're going to install our 8 by 11 by 0.1 shim, just like so. Then we're going to line up our hole in the hex with the hole in the outdrive or slip axle. And then we're going to install our 3 by 17 pin through the hex and the axle, just like so. Make sure the pin isn't protruding on either side. It's either flush or underneath the hex. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install our M5 by 4 set screw with some blue Loctite. And I'm just going to hold this with my shock pliers just to cinch down the set screw. So now we can go ahead and install our steering arm. So it's going to go ahead and install like so. And then we're going to install with the two M3 by 10 screws. And since it's going to be going into aluminum, I'm going to go ahead and add some blue Loctite. So one side is done, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other side real quickly and speed it up so you don't have to wait, and then we can move on to the next step, which is 22.2. All right, since both axles are done now, we can move on to installing the axle onto the C hub. and we're gonna go ahead and do the right side. So it looks like these are directional. There's a right and a left side. So I'm gonna use the right one. And it's nice that these are aluminum pieces. You know, I'm surprised that, you know, the kit price is roughly the same as every other brand in the segment. But I mean, they include aluminum C-hubs, aluminum, you know, drive, or the steering hubs, the rear hubs, you know, these are each probably $50–$60 a piece, and they're included in the kit, which normally they're not included in the kit. They're, you know, upgrade parts. So surprised that they can do that and maintain, you know, their quality and price. So amazing value. Anyway, let's continue. So we have our right side hub. Looks like it's going to install like so, with the R facing this way, and this R is going to be facing up. So we're going to need these pieces. We're going to need, looks like, this pin that has a milled flat on one side. So I need two of those. We're going to need two M4x6 set screws, which are these. Then we're going to need an M2.5x6 screw and a 2.5x5x0.4 washer, which I believe are going to be these. And then we're going to need two of these little bushings. So it shows in a step 1, 2, 3, 4 on how to put everything together. So what we're going to do is follow that. Looks like the first thing to do is to install these bushings. One on the top, one on the bottom. And then the second thing to do, I think we have to install the M2.5x6 screw and washer first. And it is going to aluminum, so I'm going to go ahead and put some blue Loctite. Okay, don't really know what that screw is for yet. It looks like it might be like a stop or something. Let's go ahead and install our steering block into the C-hub, just like so. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to install these pieces. And these pieces, there's a flat. So you can see the flat here. We want the flat to be facing the inside, because that's where the set screw is going to go. The set screw is going to go and sit onto this flat. So that's what we want to achieve. And the flat on the head shows the orientation of the flat as well. So go ahead and insert that. Make sure it sits in the steering hub bushing. All right, I got both installed, top and bottom. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install our M4x6 set screw with blue Loctite. Make sure you're lined up with the flat. As you can see here, I have the flat on the same side as the set screw, so it's pushing against that flat and that'll hold it in place. Now I can do the same thing on the bottom. Everything is nicely secure. That's exactly how we want it. All right. Now we can go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. I'll speed it up so y'all don't have to wait too long. Okay, so with these assemblies done, we can install onto the chassis. So grab that. Right side, left side, we're going to need our hinge pin screws and 2 M3 nylock nuts. So the way this is going to install is we actually need to put some grease on the hinge pins. It's going to be metal to metal. We didn't have to do that in the rear because it has plastic inserts. So we have our right side. Make sure that it sits, the axle sits in the drive cup. We're going to go ahead and install the hinge pin screw from the back. And then we're going to put the nylock nut on from the front. And you can over tighten it, so make sure when you tighten it, your hub can move freely. Just like so. And the thread is in the nylock, so it shouldn't back out. And we can do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now we can move on to putting together the front camber links. So I'm going to set the chassis aside for now as I build the links, and then bring the chassis back when we need to install it. So we're going to need our turnbuckle and 2 rod ends. We're also going to need 1 plain ball and one of the balls with the hex on it. So go ahead and trim if necessary. So I'm actually going to set these up right side and left side, so we know from the rear the notch indicates right hand thread. So if I'm doing the right hand side, so say for example this is going to be the right hand side, we want the right hand thread over here, and on the right hand side of the car we're going to have a plain ball end, because the left hand side is going to be attached to the shock tower, and then over here we'll have the opposite. This is how our camber links are going to be assembled. We have the right hand side over here, so we have our right link and our left link. So put a little oil on the threads. So the Serpent has some interesting rod ends. There's actually a large opening and a small opening, so take note of that when you install your balls. So I'm not going to worry too much about the total length. I want to make sure that the amount of threads that are showing are roughly the same on both sides, and they are. So that way I can install this onto the chassis and then use the turnbuckle to tighten everything up. Right side, left side. Let's grab our chassis. So our right side, notch on the right side. Our left side, notch on the right side. So now we're going to need an M3 by 20 screw with nylock nut. It's going to install on the outside of the car. Then on the inside, we're gonna have N3x14 box heads, along with 3.2x7x0.5 washers. And that's it. And it looks like I've got some small set screws that are left over in the bag. So let's go ahead and install the camber links. We're going to install it in the middle hole on the outside, and then we're going to install, looks like there's 2 rows of holes on the shock tower. We're going to install on the inside row, second from the top. So inside row, second from the top, here and here. And install like this on the back side of the shock tower. So we're using the M3x20 screw going in from the backs of the C-hub and installing with a 9-lock nut on the front. And then we're going to take the M3x14 cap head screw with the 3.2x7x0.5 washer. It's going to be a 2.5mm hex. We're going to install with some blue Loctite because it's going into an aluminum ball. Remember, we're going to go in the secondmost hole from the top on the inside row. Make sure your axle is in the drive cup. And then you can hold it with a 8mm wrench to tighten that screw. Right, let's go ahead and do the other side real quickly, and then we can get the total length from the shoulder to shoulder to 18.2mm. All right, now I can adjust both sides to 18.2. Not too concerned about the total length right now, because, you know, even though it's kit setup, depending on your electronics and everything else, it's going to be different once you set up your car. So X-Ray doesn't do it this way, and it kind of frustrates me because on most cars, the right hand threads are supposed to be on the right hand side of the car, left hand on the left side of the car. That way when you adjust either side, it's the same direction. So for example, on this car, you've noticed that when I go towards the back of the car like this, the turnbuckle shortens, and that's going to be the same for every turnbuckle on the car. So nice that Serpent follows industry standard. All right, that's close enough. All right, so that concludes bag 6, the front assembly. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. No issues to report. Everything went nice and smooth. Love the fact that there's aluminum bits. Can't compliment Serpent enough for doing that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video where I continue the build, which is going to be bag 7, the central assembly. See y'all then. Thanks.